Beautiful. Dale, really, all of you this morning. Where did Reverend Juan go? Juan, I hope I can be you when I grow up. No, we're only a month apart, but it is wonderful to see two close friends do what moves them so much. It is freezing in here. And I grew up in Detroit, as Reverend Chris said, or in Michigan, but when you leave 20-some years ago, it does not stay with you. So I'm going to let God warm me up here this morning. So in Judaism, all of the synagogues, I'm going to give you a very quick lesson, very quick. All of the synagogues are reading the same part of the Bible the same week throughout the world. So where you have lectionary, tell me if I'm wrong, where you have readings of the Bible that you pick to match sort of what you want to say or vice versa, and it's based on how the reverend is moved, we are following a schedule. And so that every year at a certain time, like when it's Passover, Easter time, we're at the part of the Torah, of the Old Testament of the Bible, that tells us about the holiday so that it lines up with our calendar. So there's your very quick lesson on that. But this time, you know Easter is coming up fairly soon, right? I get it's April-ish, and we're on a lunar calendar, so our stuff jumps around a bit, but we're starting to learn about Passover in the Torah. And so Passover takes place when the Jews, when all of our ancestors are leaving from slavery. So this morning, I was thinking a lot about, and for the past month, because we've been studying it, this motion and notion out of slavery into freedom. And so the Torah portion that I was thinking most about is called, it's really, let me tell you it a little bit differently. How many of you have seen The Prince of Egypt, or seen the Ten Commandments, or have seen Exodus, or have gone to Blockbuster back in the day and saw all the ones with the Ten Commandments and the fire? That's where we are right now in the Old Testament. So I chose this morning's theme of coming out of our personal narrow places based on that, based on what I've been thinking about. And so you can go ahead and put up the first slide. I feel like we're the Old Testament. I should know like the old school way to do this, but I don't. So here is the word, whether you read biblical Hebrew or not. We start from this side and go over, right to left. It says Mitzrayim, which I wrote out in English, transliteration, M-I-T-Z. You see what I'm talking about? And that's the word for Egypt. The word for Egypt, Mitzrayim, in the Bible, in all of our history, represents a time in our history when we were confined, where we were literally shackled, where who we were was not determined by how we wanted to be. It was determined by who owned us, by how we served. There was no autonomy. There was no covenantal relationship with that greater than us or within ourselves. We did what we were told. We served other human beings. There was no right to serve God. There was no space to serve God. We were slaves. This word Mitzrayim represents that, and I'm going to show you how. So I'm going to go to the second slide where I've parsed the word. This time I'll have to translate it because I didn't write it on the slide. The first letter, the mem, that looks like a mouse house. See the little house? That means from, okay, in Hebrew. Tsar, the middle one that looks, I don't even know how to look at it wrong right now. The middle thing. Tsar, the middle of the word, and yim, the end of the word. Tsar, let's go to the next slide. The middle of the word Mitzrayim means narrow spaces. In Hebrew, tsar means a narrow space. Right in the middle of the word Mitzrayim of Egypt is a narrow space. It's a narrow space for so many reasons. Why is it a narrow space? This is where Jews like to ask questions. All we do is ask questions. What's a narrow space? Think about it, or else I'll voluntold you. Think about it. Someone give me some narrow spaces in your life. You can't be wrong. Jail? Yes. One more time? To escape? Yes. Narrow spaces. Restriction. Bad relationships for sure. Sickness. Quarantine. Roles. Lack of resources. The life we're born into. How we see ourselves, how others see us. Every single thing can be seen as a narrow space, and yet I wonder if we were to look at all those, maybe or maybe not exclusive of jail, we can take a different attitude towards them. Right? How many of us looked at COVID as the worst thing that could happen, as cheating us out of time, cheating us out of relationships, and yet how many of us looked at it as an opportunity to connect with ourselves and our kids? How many of us look at lack of resources as what keeps us down, and yet other people look at least I have some resources? I may not be the one that looks at those things in the positive. I'm a realist in that sense. But I want us to start thinking about these narrow spaces and what creates narrow spaces and how much of that is our attitude towards those narrow spaces and not necessarily the reality of what keeps us narrow. So we're going to go to the next slide. And this is the last slide. I feel like I have a PowerPoint going on. When you take the tsar out of the first word, Mitzrayim, when you take the narrow space out, you're left with a mem, a yud, and a mem, which in Hebrew means water. When you take the narrow spaces out of Egypt, you're left with water. And what are the properties of water? Life. Which? Flowing. Purity. Refreshment. Cleansing. Everything. I mean, when I think of water, both in your faith tradition and in mine, it is all about life. What does it take? We need oxygen, yeah, but we need water. When we take the narrow spaces out of what keeps us down, we're actually given the ability to flow, to move, to grow, to expand, and to expound. I think about what Reverend Chris did in his meditation, and I wish that it was coincidental, but I have a feeling he's just brilliant enough to do it on what I was speaking about today. But how do we keep ourselves in the narrow spaces? If our bodies are made up of so much water, let's not look at metaphor, let's look at actuality. How can we not hold on to that water and see that we can flow, we can move? That really the tsar, the narrow spaces, are ourselves, our fear, our anxiety, our self-loathing, and I will say loathings. That is true. Our feelings of being down on ourselves and who we are. How much are we getting in the way of the water flowing? Think about this for a second. Think about a time as a child or any other time in your life you've gone to a riverbed or a flowing body of water and you see a rock in the middle of it, or you put your foot in the middle of it. What does the water have to do at that point? Go around it, come back, it stops. It stops right in the middle of the water. What if we are the tsar? What if we are this narrow space? What if we are that rock or that foot or something that stops ourselves from letting the water flow, letting our potential flow, letting who we are and how we want to show up in this world flow? You get that point just like I get that point. And then reality comes in. Okay. All right, Rabbi, I'm the foot, I'm the rock, I'm the fear, I'm the anxiety, I'm the lack of confidence. But now what? So I love when Reverend Juan said, and I'm going to totally paraphrase because I have the worst memory in life, but when Reverend Juan said, just be, just own, this is me now, not you, Juan. Just own who you are, just show up how you are. Chris, your compliment of me being authentic is beyond anything I could ever accept for myself. But what if that potential authenticity, in Hebrew we say, B'Tselem Elohim, created in God's image. That's from Genesis. We share the same books at the beginning, folks. What if we actually allowed ourselves to be how we were created to be? Not how our neighbor thinks we should be, not how our parents, which we hold on to far beyond they're on this earth, think we should be, not beyond how our religion thinks we should be, or anyone else. Frankly, not even how we think we should be, but how God thinks we should be. Does anyone, you don't have to answer because I don't know that I could, does anyone actually think they're living the life God wanted them to lead? Wow, I really hope that a 90th of my life is how God intended me to lead it. And I really hope that tomorrow an 89th of my life is how God intended me. A 91st is how God intended me to lead. I hope every day we're a little bit closer to the intention, to the kavanah in Hebrew, to the intention of what God wanted for me in my life. But I have to pick up my foot out of the water if I want that. I have to open my eyes, open my ears, and fully open my heart more to hear and to listen and to feel what I was here to do. One of my favorite teachings in Judaism comes from a rabbi, bless you, comes from a rabbi in 14th century that says, on the day of your birthday, and it's one of my favorite things to write in a birthday card, God decided the world was not complete without you in it, and so you were created. The world was not complete without you in it, you guys, without me. But if I try to be anything other than God brought me into this world to be, I'm not helping the world. I'm certainly not helping myself. So how do we remove our foot from the water? How do we take that rock and throw it aside? How do we look at ourselves in the mirror and actually be happy with who's standing and reflecting back? One way I want to suggest may only work for me, but I have a feeling it might work for Unity on the Bay also, is looking at that little bit of God inside of each person. And whether my saying God shuts you off or opens you up, hear it however you need to hear it. Recognizing we are something smaller than something larger. What if we see that in each one of us? What if when we interact with someone, just as the phrase namaste, the soul inside of me responds to the soul with you, what if we actually saw that? What if we were a little more forgiving, a little more compassionate, a little more empathetic? What if I saw something that angers me so much in front of me as angering me because I could do the same thing in a different setting? What if I reacted in a way so viscerally because I realized, it's not that they're upsetting me so much, it's that I might do that if the tables were turned? What if we stop judging and start loving? But I don't mean faking it. How much of our lives, how much of my life, I will be honest, is faking it till we make it? Let me say it differently. How much are we trying to feel something and just not getting there yet? How much are we the stumbling block before the blind? How much do we keep ourselves from seeing what's actually in front of us that God has put in front of us? When we have these narrow spaces as Mitzrayim, we have them all throughout our lives. All of us. We all have challenges. We all have struggles. They are real. They are part of being human. Even the most devout person has struggles. That's not the absence of struggle, being faithful, but it's how we deal with struggle. I think that's what's being faithful. So if all of us have these, then shouldn't we be reaching out our arms, reaching out our hands, opening our hearts so that the people next to us who feel so alone, that when Reverend Juan was talking about we're all in this together, when this incredible singer was reminding us that we are chosen family, how many times do we have to hear it? How many different ways do we have to see it that we're in this together? For me, COVID has been very difficult because of the physical distance it's placed between people. We have to go that much further to connect. We face something that you aren't facing right now at Unity. We are still behind a screen at my synagogue. We still do not have people in our sanctuary. And so each Shabbat, each Friday night, I say to our congregants, we are distanced, but we are not apart. What if COVID, what if tsar, what if any of our narrow spaces actually allowed us to turn our lives into mayim, into flowing opportunity, so that we could see the potentiality, not only of the world we are lived in and blessed with, but the people who we are surrounded by and surrounded and chosen as our chosen family. So I want you to try something with me. One of my favorite memes came up on Instagram this morning, and it's Pooh and Piglet, I think, and I'm gonna mix them up. I mean, I know which is the bear and which is the pig, but Piglet's like a clear notifier for that. But I don't know who said what. Piglet's always the negative one, Eeyore's the negative, whatever. So one of the guys says, I'm so bummed out, my word, not his, I'm so bummed out because we only live life once. And the other one says, oh, no. We only die once. We live every single day. What a shift in paradigm. What a shift in intentionality. What a way to put the mind back in the Mitzrayim. To take our feet out of the water, to move these narrow spaces into fluidity, all has to do with how we look at life. I don't think it's easy. I don't think it's a shift that we can do on the turn of a hat. But if we could be 1% better next week or in an hour or in a year than we are right now, what would that look like for you? What's in your way? Don't tell me, tell yourself. What's in your way? Open up a note on your phone some point and make a list of what's in your way. And then tack them off one by one. Because I have a feeling, and if I did this too, I would have this understanding, that more often than not, the circumstance isn't what's in the way. It's us that's in the way. It's our fear, our anxiety, our complaining, our sense of being a victim. Very real things happen in life. We are victims of certain circumstances. We are with less resources than others. We are different in that way. But just as the song said, we're all the same also. So what we can't move for ourselves out of that narrow space, reach out your hands and grab someone who can help you see it differently. Surround yourself with people who don't think like you. In Judaism, we are only allowed to study Torah, to study the Bible, in groups of 2 or more. Besides Paula, why are we only allowed to study Torah in groups of 2 or more? It's a real question. 2 or more present what? Oh, I don't even know that in that. Yes, that's beautiful. That is not why, but that is beautiful. Different perspectives, Reverend. Anyone else? So Reverend Juan is not so off, but I'll let him be off enough because he's not a rabbi, so he doesn't get full props for that. The idea is that you already know what you think, so you can't study Scripture alone. I can read it and say, yes, this is what it means. I know that. But if someone else is present or someone else's are present, it challenges what I think. It may not change my mind, but I better be very clear on what I think. And it forces them to be very clear or open-minded or both on what they think. So what if we surround ourselves not just with the family we choose who looks like us, sounds like us, prays like us, eats like us? You see that banner outside of Temple Israel and Unity on the Bay every morning that I put up. What if we not only surrounded ourselves with people like us, but people who weren't like us? So that we could learn a little bit more about opportunities, options, ways that we could live in this life differently than how we're comfortable. Or let me say how that opening prayer said, let us not be complacent. Let us be ruffled and wrestle with what it means to be us in this world. Because the minute we become sleepy with how we are, less and less water becomes available. The narrow spaces become the dominant, and we see no movement available for ourselves. We're stuck. Think about this. How many of us are stuck? God, I feel stuck a lot. What's a synonym with stuck? Trapped. We're not trapped. We're not victims. We're not tsar, or the plural tsarim. We're not our narrow spaces. We just need a different perspective. I pray that this Sunday is not only a happy Sunday when we say happy Sunday to each other. I pray that that's not only something that is aspirational, but something that may be real to us and may not be real this Sunday, but may be real next Sunday or Sundays to come. I pray that whatever is keeping your foot stuck in the muck of the water can be removed, not by force or coercion of someone else, not by being told you need to be better, you need to fix it, you need to get over your stuff, but by you, by me, realizing that we're causing that stuff. We're focusing on that stuff. I pray that each one of us lifts our foot out of that muck and allows the narrow spaces to not only diminish, but to go away, and allows the mayim, the water, to flood through us, to come through us as a vessel, to allow God to push that water forcefully through us so that we not only get out of our narrow spaces, we allow pathways for others to see openings in their lives as well. Amen. Biggest fan.
If Rabbi Amy can come up here without a jacket, I'm going to come up here without a jacket too. I'll be fine. Be me. I can only be me. Thank goodness Unity on the Bay allows me to be me. Please give it up one more time for Rabbi Amy. That was simply incredible. Mitzrayim, did I say it right? Mitzrayim. You look at me, I'm trilingual. I have to say, I can't let her leave the stage without thinking about a couple of years ago when we first came here, and I recall being here at Temple Israel saying, oh, this is going to feel weird. We're going to be feeling like we're wearing somebody else's clothes, being at somebody else's temple. And Rabbi Amy and her whole crew never let us feel that way. Like, we automatically felt like we were at home. Like, this was our home. And that's not an easy feat with Unity on the Bay congregants. We love our stuff, and we missed our old building, and you made us feel so welcomed, and I'll never, ever, ever forget that. Thank you so much, Rabbi Amy. Please give it up for her again. Incredible, incredible. So here at Unity on the Bay, we believe in a spiritual law of giving and receiving. And now is your opportunity to give in gratitude. If you need envelopes, please raise your hand, and Miss Juanita will hook you up. Nick is over there too. Yes, okay, hooked up. Yeah, okay. You can go green also. You can text GIVE, G-I-V-E, to 833-245-5645. Folks at home, the information is right on your screen. Set that up one time, and it really does make your life a lot easier. Folks here, the information is on the screen behind me as well. And I will give you a few minutes in silence to prepare your gift. I'll let you think about those narrow spaces, fear, anxiety, all those things that are of no use to us. All right, so hold your gift or your hand to your heart, and we will bless these gifts together. Divine love, that I am, blesses all that I give and all that I receive. Ooh, now let's don't forget that I'm going to invite the prayer chaplains on up. If something came up during service and you don't want to go home with it, please sit down with them. They are here for you. They are here to talk, to pray with you, to just, go over something that is just not sitting right with you. That's what they're here for. So I will invite them up to up here at this time as well. And with that, I will also invite Rabbi Amy, Reverend Chris, Reverend Juan on up for the prayer for protection, followed by our peace song. And I'm going to move back here with the cool kids.
We didn't rehearse this part.
At all. I don't even do the hand thing, but I'll join you.
Oh, there you go. All right.
I don't have the
with
words.
that, we are going to invite you to stand so that we can affirm our prayer for protection and follow that with our peace song. So together, the light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well.